What's up, Cinephiles? How is your Halloween? If you guys are still looking for a horror movie to watch this season, I highly suggest to you His House, directed by Remi. It's now streaming on Netflix. Here's a review coming right up. But before we begin, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe to us for weekly reviews of movies, TV shows, and video games. Now I bring back to the channel Carlos Laron, who suggested to me this movie. Hi there!
Hi Kevin, how are you?
Okay, doing fine. So apologies if you might hear some rain sounds here because we are in the middle of typhoon while shooting this, but carry on. So this story is about a couple from Sudan trying to flee from their country because they're in the middle of genocide. There's Rial and Bol, played by Wunmi Mosaku from Lovecraft Country, whom we really love, and then Sope, Dirisu, and they're trying to adjust into this new house, and there's a lot of hauntings that's happening. So the movie will try to get into that. This is another level of horror, a multifaceted horror.
Yeah.
What is your take about this movie?
Okay, when I first saw the trailer, I was, whoa, okay, that's a different kind of horror. We are not surprised by haunted house horror anymore, right? But this one, it's very inventive with a story about the immigrant experience. It's something I can relate to, and also there must be something heavy that is very revelatory at the end. The ghost of the house and their past trauma. It's very refreshing, and it's a deeply, deeply painful story. Yeah, you should all watch this.
I'm just going to say right off the bat that I think this is the best horror movie that I've seen for 2020.
Wow.
Because some of the acclaimed movies that's released in 2020, they're only released in US. I know there's a noise for movies like Possessor, what else, Mod, and I will never get the chance to see those movies this year. So I think this is the best one that I've seen. And you know, when I said about multifaceted horrors, that's really the type of horror movie that I really like. It's not just about cheap thrills. First of all, let's talk about this couple trying to adjust and integrate themselves in this society, because I believe they're in this what you call a bail agreement.
Yeah. They're asylum
some sort of approbation status. They were not allowed to go for other means of income. They were only given monthly allowances. That in itself feels like they're being constrained, like they are second grade citizens at this point. And you know, to see the xenophobia, not just basic racism, because at one point here the character of Rial, played by Wunmi, she experiences discrimination against people of her own color. So I think it goes without a saying that skin folk are not necessarily kinfolk.
Oh yeah.
Then on the opposite side, we have a character like Bol, who's really trying to maintain this optimistic view, like we are going to build our lives around here. We see him trying his best to be one of the community. I believe there's also a scene where he tries to dress up like a white guy. To see those two conflicting attitudes, I think that's what an immigrant feels. You will either feel like you belong here or you're not here mentally, physically, and emotionally, even spiritually. It's fascinating to see the crumbling marriage. From the get-go, we are going to also learn that they lost their daughter at the sea because they're technically illegal immigrants. So there's another trauma
layer
in there.
Yeah. You know what? I agree. The reason why I like this movie so much is because there are two conflicting situations, circumstances that we have. They are in a new foreign land, but Bol is trying to assimilate in the new land that they are part of. He is, like you said, optimistic. When it comes to Rial, she is very much clinging to her past, and she doesn't want to change. She always says to Bol that they are sending us back, as if almost she wants to actually go back herself and not even start this new life with Bol there. It's a battle of their wants and their needs. To see their mental states deteriorate right in front of our eyes as the movie progresses, I thought that was very sad, but also that's actually real. That is the immigrant experience. They have a lot of trauma. The layers of this story, I commend it very much.
Yeah, it is very grounded character story for me. The actors here, Wunmi and Sophie, I have to commend them, of course, for bringing all this trauma and their layered performance. Most of the time, we are empathetic to their characters is because of their portrayal. That's just one side, some sort of a social commentary horror. And then there's an actual haunting here. I would like to think of these jump scares as just like appetizers, and none of them them were done cheaply. There were some clever light switch
Yes.
tricks, and then there's some evocative horror imagery
Oh my
that was
God, I
shown.
was so scared. The people on the walls,
yes.
I will never unsee that.
I can't really place how they look. They have zombie-like features, but at the same time, they have this weird, emaciated face in them. I mean, I'm not going to be more descriptive because I don't want to give away about the origin of those ghosts. There's a backstory that we will learn later on, but you know, when it turns to visual effects, to see the dream sequences of Ball being placed back to the sea, I think that's something you can watch on the cinema. But yeah, so much themes: alienation, trauma, survivor's guilt, and they're all coalesce into the manifestations. And I love that the show has a sense of ambiguity into it. You're going to ask yourself at the end if these supernatural machinations are something that they've conjured in their mind, or this is something that actually happened. So we will get into that later.
For me, I thought that the imagery that I saw, very artsy, very art house, very effective jump scares. I think I got really, really scared 4 times in the movie because it was very fast. The ghosts that were appearing in front of their eyes were just either like really quick, or they had the imagery where it's like so shocking and it stays on for like at least about 3 seconds. And also, we see that the house is like crumbling. You know, most haunted house movies are like either very gothic or like very minimalist. The house in this movie, it's a mess. It's like destroying right in front of their house. So it's a good touch to the movie, and somehow they're okay with it because also if they choose to move to another place, they would not be granted asylum. It's like they're stuck. When Ball was at the office and he was being interviewed by the character of Matt Smith, oh my God, I thought he was losing his mind. He was laughing. He was simply saying that we want to move into another house. But Matt Smith's character was reiterating that you can't move to another house. You will be questioned. People will ask your mental state on what you don't like about him. But they really couldn't say that the house is being haunted, right? Because no one will believe them. At the end of that scene, he crushed a glass. It really shows that this character is going insane in the viewer's eyes, but in his mind, it's real.
Actually, it kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen The Invisible Man, when Elizabeth Moss' character is trying to explain some supernatural hauntings that's happening, but no one's believed in her. And because Elizabeth Moss was so great in that scene, from an outsider point of view, you're going to see her as crazy. And in here, same with Sope, Dirisu, he has this caliber of acting, and I think until the end, it has the impression that we will never fully understand what they've been through and what they're trying to keep into themselves, that we are just outsiders looking at their life. That's the over impression that I've got. But you know, I also like that you mentioned Matt Smith from The Crown. I like how the director handled his character, that he's not this one-dimensional villain. Like, from a story perspective, you can easily turn him into a villain, but he remains to be empathetic.
And he tries to understand.
So,
them. Those are the elements that I like about the story, and we pretty much are in the same page about it. So, I kind of agree with you when you said it's one of the best movies that you've seen this year, best horror movies that you've seen this year, because I haven't seen much horror this year, but this is one of the best. So, this is going up to 4.5 over 5 for me.
Okay, so I'm going to give this a solid 5 out of 5. I just love how it subverts the haunted house subgenre, fusing it with real life personal traumas. I think that's something that we really don't get much of these days. It's something that The Haunting of Bly Manor has done. There's an aspect in that show, but I don't want to give away too much. I think let's proceed to the spoiler talk as we try to explain, because the ending is subject to different interpretations. Spoiler warning. So, in the end, we find out that they were never really a couple. They're just two persons trying to survive, and the child that they lost at the sea, the daughter, was never theirs to begin with. And then they are followed by this apeth that Real manages to kill, because the apeth wants Ball to sacrifice his life in exchange of Nyagak, their supposed daughter.
When I found out that Nyagak wasn't really their daughter, I was so shocked. So that must be all the reason and all where the pain was coming from and all the manifestations of the hauntings came from, because a big part of that was coming from their guilt. They are so caught up in their own guilt. They have this thing called survivor's remorse because they were able to survive, but the kid that they brought along, that they basically used, died at sea. So it's as if that somehow they have to take her back. and then the APET was offering them something in exchange for Niagak to be back into life. That was painful. That part of the story really solidified my liking for it. At the end, my interpretation was they're okay living in that house and the ghosts are there with them and they will live with them because that's the only way to face themselves. It was not the ending that I expected, but man, that was really good.
At the end though, I think Riel really killed that witch.
Yeah.
There's a sinkhole that was still present that they managed to cover up with a rug. So that physical evidence is enough for me to think that that such events really transpired. But I would like to think that the ghosts that stayed with them are no longer malevolent spirits. The last shots shown was them in their regular clothes. So I would like to think of them as either ghosts that they have still conjured because they have this grief, this survivor remorse that they will carry on no matter how time has long passed. And it will remain in that house. There's a wonderful message about acceptance that Ball keeps mentioning to himself and to others that they are good people. Of course, good people are also driven to do bad things, but that doesn't make them terrible people. Learning to forgive yourself is to have the acceptance. With that, they can face their life together, And also for Riel, I think there's also a wonderful moment here that she finally learns to let go of a daughter that was never hers to begin with.
The movie is saying so much about moving on and, starting over. Like you said, forgiving yourself for the wrong things that you did, moving forward in life, and somehow not having to carry that guilt. Because terrible things happen in our lives, but we carry on. The ending was really done great.
Okay, so I think that's it for our review of His House, directed by Remi Weeks. I looked into this director and he has a thin resume, so this is a solid, impressive directorial debut. But how about you guys? Let us know what you think in the comment sections below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit like and subscribe to us for weekly content. Thank you, Carlos, once again for guesting and suggesting to me this Halloween horror movie.
Okay, thanks guys, and be safe. Stay at home.
Till then, see you on the next one.
Bye guys.